Innovation, the key to create competitive excellence, is going to be the discussion topic for the next panel discussion. It's going to be moderated by Mr. Mujeebullah Khan, CEO, iTextiles Private Limited. The participants are going to be Mr. Hermann Selker, Head of Marketing, Trützschler, GmbH & Co. KG, Germany. Mr. Adil Ghani, General Manager Plant, Nishat Mills Limited. Mr. Khalid Mahmood, Executive Director, Master Textile Mills, Dr. Zubair Bandukda, and Mr. Holger Fischer. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
So very rightly timed because we just came out of I like to talk. So I'll leave. I'll probably not ask many questions, but I'll give probably a few minutes to each person in the panel. What do they think? We're not going to structure it that where we are, where should we be. I think everybody should talk about how and when. And when is now, but how. Rather than blaming Aptima. So let's make it more. So I'll start with Dr. Zubair.
I think the advantage of being in the last session is that everything which needs to be said is already said, and I think Mujeeb's presentation was a good end because it really covered everything which we wanted to say. My background has been more on the human resource development, for which I think there was a very good discussion. But in terms of what are the trends or what are the areas where Pakistan could go, I think we've been talking this since yesterday. And even though there is no doubt that cotton is very important, cotton is very close to our hearts, but I think we have to now slowly but surely divorce cotton, because I think until and unless we do that, we cannot really move forward. Keep saying it, we are cotton growing, fine, good, no problem, but I think we need to adopt other fibers, we need to bring them in, because as Mujeeb was showing that there is a lot more with other fibers you can do in terms of performance, in terms of what kind of characteristics. So we need to adopt, and that's where you're going to have the value added. The other area, which again is very close to my heart, and we've been trying to promote that, is in terms of diversification, move into areas like technical textiles. Yes, it does require a bit of step up, but it's not nice. There are a lot of areas in technical textiles which you could do very simply, even using cotton for that matter. There's a lot of technical textiles with cotton fibers as well. There was this discussion about consumer insight, and I think Dr. Khurram, and I think very interesting comment he made about the generation, the millennials and the Generation X and Generation Y. And speaking from my own experience, I have two growing up daughters or teenage daughters who live in the UK, and the way they buy is totally changed. Every time they are at university, the day before they're coming back on holidays, packages start coming home. So I know they're going to come home because before they arrive, they've ordered all the things, and then things start coming back. And they order number of things, and I keep saying to them, how do you order all this? Because they say, well, we'll order 10 things, we'll try 2 of them, or keep 2 of them, the rest 8 of them, we'll just send them back. It's free delivery, it's free returns, you can try it at home, you don't need to go into the stores. So the whole consumer idea, and this is the generation which is going to drive. So I think we have to keep that in mind. Final point, which is close to my heart, is about the human resource development. And there was this very interesting discussion about institutions like TIP, and I bring TIP because I was part of TIP. I started TIP, and I'm very proud of that. However, what you have to understand that as soon as you have an institution, whether it's TIP, which was National College, now it's NTU, there's a push of converting these institutions into university. And the reason is that it's only when you become university, you start getting funding, you have government funding, you have HEC. So there is this pressure from our people who are evaluating us, like HEC, to become universities. And universities are not there to provide you the technical manpower. And I think that's the difference you have to try and understand. It's the vocational training institutions which will provide you the technical manpower. The universities are going to give you educated people. And it is then up to the industry to take them and train them. And we heard yesterday from Interloop how they've done it. If you have a specific requirement, and then there was this example of Brandix in Sri Lanka, I visited that, and they've taken it. Because it's the industry who would know what they need from so I think asking from graduates, that to know all the technical, because that's always going to be a challenge. So we need to understand that universities are there to provide you that education, and then to do research. And I'm going to use that, we need to stop using the word development and not use it and use innovation, because that's what universities are there to create new knowledge and provide that to the students. The industry has to then step in and then help these institutions. There's a lot of work now happening at NTU. There are a lot of projects at NTU in particular where industry is collaborating with the university to do a lot of new developments. But also in terms of curriculum development, I think you have to have people from industry on these university boards so they can tell what has to be taught. But please bear in mind that the education has to be part of the thing. We cannot just do technical training, and that's all I would say.
Thank you. That's an excellent insight. And Interloop at NTU this March, they announced 20 industry-sponsored master's program. That means 20 projects industry is going to invest in as scholarships, and all the projects are very well defined around innovation, technical textile, which is now performance textile, because technical textile does not mean, like Dr. Zubair said, that only flame retardant. Technical textile means this jacket I'm wearing should last 10 times more. Sorry, yes sir. Khalid sir.
Starting with this very interesting question, and incidentally the points which I was to talk about exactly pertains to the question which you have just raised. I have spent almost 30 years in the industry. I have traveled a lot to the Far Eastern countries also. And during that period, I have seen the period of 90s and then the post-2000 also. And I'm witness to the kind of textile trade which was taking place before this establishment of the WTO and before the abolition of the quota and the post-quota also. I'm witness to the fact that when I was first visiting Vietnam in 1993, and how Vietnam was nobody in the textile, and they were just looking at the world, staring at the world, how the business actually turned, and so on and so forth. And these were the Koreans, the Japanese, the Taiwanese, the Singaporeans, and all that, who were trying to encash on the tremendous kind of potential Vietnam was able to offer them. Coming back to the Pakistan, I have witnessed that after 2005, we have actually gone down vis-a-vis the benefit which the other countries have achieved. I remember before 2005, I attended a few seminars in Lahore, and many of the entrepreneurs, they were boasting that quota is just holding our growth. And you see, once these quotas are gone beyond 2005, and then the sky is the limit for the Pakistani entrepreneurs. And then we saw that after this 2005, most of the leading hosiery companies, at least, or the knitwear companies in Lahore, they started collapsing one after the other. And now you find that many of the players, leading players before this abolition of quota in Lahore at least, you don't find many of them in the map of the production nowadays. So this brings us to those basic questions which you are talking about. And I have my exposure on the political economy, so I'll be basically talking more on the macro factors which basically led to this situation. Number one, I think our approach and understanding to the global textiles and clothing trade. In this hall, for the last 2 days, we are only talking about textiles and textiles and textiles. As far as the global trade is concerned, this has two major components. One is the textiles, the other one is the apparel or the clothing. And Mujeebullah Khan, when he was making his presentation, and he figured it out that the chapter 67 and 62, which basically covers the clothing, that is roughly the 60% of the global trade. And as far as the textile is concerned, all the other raw materials and everything is included in that, starting from cotton, wool, yarn, fabrics, carpets, and everything. All put together at the global level, it makes only 40%. And Our approach in Pakistan, unfortunately, has been that because we were the cotton growing country and somehow we got stuck in this delusion that textiles and clothing means only the cotton and the cotton centrality, which has been talked out as well. So our approach toward that global trade and understanding of the global trade needs a paradigm shift. I have been talking to various forums that for God's sake, first let's try to make our understanding clear that if we really want to be something at the global arena, then let's at least start calling this global trade with the correct name, that is the textiles and clothing. As Mujeebullah was just giving you some of the statistics, in clothing, Cambodia has gone to the 10th. Cambodia, a couple of years, was only about $5 billion or so. Cambodia only emerged on the textile scene a couple of years back. Why it has been able to be there and we not there? For this simple reason, because the policymakers in Islamabad, the entrepreneurs in Pakistan, everybody is stuck with its own comfort zone of the cotton centrality. We think if we have the spinning, we have done wonders. If we have put up a weaving, we have done wonders. If we have put up the processing unit, that's the end of the world. Nobody is actually focused and nobody wants to go into the clothing sector. That is the major thing. I think we need to align our whole trade with the global trend of the textiles and clothing. Unless we are not aligned with that, there is no point of giving the example of Bangladesh and Vietnam. Is Bangladesh basically exporting the textile products? No, they are exporting the clothing products. As far as the Vietnam is concerned, the Cambodia is concerned, are they exporting basically the textile products? No, they are exporting the clothing products. Now, if you look at the growth statistics, the clothing has a better growth year after year. And as far as the textile is concerned, in few years it has a negative growth, and then the growth is much less than the clothing. So if you see the statistics, during the last 10 years, the global trade of the clothing has been much larger, grown faster as compared to the textiles. So I think the first paradigm shift Pakistan needs is that we need to align ourselves with the global trend. We need to understand and we need to approach that, the global trade accordingly. Otherwise, these kind of trade talks and the question which you are talking, I heard these kind of a question 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and I hope that I should not be listening these questions 10 years later if I am alive till that time also. Two, very briefly, few of the speakers yesterday talked about getting out of the mold of the cotton centrality. I think the cotton has rather become a curse for us, that whole business model has been basically revolving around the cotton. And if you look at the changing patterns of the global trade and the consumption patterns of the fibers and the wearing habits of the customers and all that, it is moving away from the cotton. So as long as we are stuck with this delusion of cotton, we need to get out. We are professional, we know the trade, we need to know the trade, and we should basically be using our skills, whatever consumer is demanding. So if you look at the customer choice around the world, cotton has a very small percentage into it. I remember I was doing a study for GSP benefits to Pakistan, and I was surprised that when I was comparing with China and with the other countries, I was surprised that out of that about 18 trade lines of the clothing, Pakistan was hardly active in about 3 or 4 trade lines and barely present in the next 3 to 4 trade lines. And whereas the China and the other countries, they were more active into the other trade lines which were having the billions of dollars of trade. So I think we need to come out of that mold of cotton centrality. And third, I have taken enough time. I will just restrict it to my comment. I was reading a book a few years ago, the founder of Acer, Stan Shea. He talked about a concept that the world is changing so fast that most of the business models need to be altogether revamped or cannibalized. So the book he wrote was late 90s, and he said that if we do not change, the competition will ruin us and run us over. So with Acer, he said that Acer was founded somewhere in early 80s in Taiwan. That early 90s, late 90s when he wrote this book, that 3 times at least they have completely revamped themselves, their business model, and he named this as cannibalization, that you scrap everything and you build up altogether new business plan, business vision, and hierarchy of the business, and so on and so forth. So I think as far as Pakistan as an industry is concerned, we are stuck with that old vision. We need to scrap that business model. Unfortunately, in 1990, if you look at our export basket, 60% was textiles. In 2000 and 2019 also, we are stuck with that 55% of textiles. And in Islamabad, everybody thinks that if we have to promote garment, we can just give a few import duty concessions to the stitching machines, and that's it. That's how we can promote the textiles and clothing in this Pakistan. So I think basically our model needs to be cannibalized altogether at the industry level, macro level. Otherwise, we are not going anywhere. Thank you.
So, very rightly put, Khalid Sahab. And so if I have to, summarize, so human resource development, and the other thing, and that, from a 50 cents, for a 50 cents pair of cotton, you can make a $50 pair of jeans. So more you go right. Secondly, the biggest and the fastest growing company in Korea is Samsung. They were spinners. So there's no harm in, like you said, creative destruction or,
Chail Synthetic was their company name.
Yeah.
By the way, Daewoo also started with the textile company. If you look at the history of Taiwan and the South Korea, all these countries, for them, textile was basically the stepping industry. And as they grew into the high value added and more value added, they moved away into the other industries. And even in textiles also, they started revaluing their business models. Like in Taiwan and in South Korea, they moved all the production to the offshore. They were basically focusing on the central
America
part of
was
the business.
textile.
But we are a different breed altogether. Yeah.
Adil?
If you look at Pakistan history, the basis of our textile, in my opinion, has been because of the cotton. If we hadn't had the cotton, there wouldn't be no textile. So for me, I'm a cotton guy, to be honest with you. I love cotton, okay? I know it takes a lot of water and there are other challenges as far as the cotton is concerned, but I'm a cotton guy. More of the reason for me is because it's just a sustainable fiber in a way that once it goes into the system, it does not stay there. It does not pollute our system. It biodegrades. And yesterday there was a guy, somebody gave the presentation that although we are talking about there's increase in polyester products use, but let me tell you, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, but I think the cycle, after a few years, people start to realize that this is getting a problem because the microfibers that are being washed out in a polyester garment is going into the drain. And then ultimately, even if you try to remove it, it'll not work. Even if you treat the water, you make the water clean, but it'll stay there. And then it goes into the system and then ends up in fishes and in things like that. So it's going to be a problem. And there is a study going on this thing. Coming back to the argument that Pakistan, in my opinion, has a history of being a cotton-rich country. So we started ginning, spinning, weaving. I think all along that was the right direction, of course. Where we lost was because by the time 90s, we had enough spinning, we had enough weaving, then we started pushing into the finishing industry, which was for printing and dyeing. And then later on in 2000, I think the direction we should have taken was to go into the made-ups. If you look at the Bangladesh model, they never had the cotton. And they started off with the made-ups. And now they are doing backward integration. The reason they started off in made-ups, that's why they for the last 20, 30 years, they've gotten so strong in made-ups. Let me give you an example. I represent Nishat, okay? We produce 5 million meters per month. Our competitor, there are other companies in Lahore, Sapphire, Kohinoor, Master, Serena, 5 big names in Lahore. They all of together, if I take 20 to 22 million meters per month we produce for apparels. That is bottom weights, it's be it for most of the fashion fabrics and technical fabrics as well, flame retardants and things like that. Out of that, I can tell you very honestly, hardly 2 to 3 million will be converted into garment in Pakistan. 16 to 17 million is being exported every month.
Great point. Yeah.
Majority of that goes to China and Bangladesh, about 50% at least. Rest, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Vietnam. Now, why can't we convert that into made-ups in Pakistan? It means we need direction. It's very simple. We are doing it. So we don't need to, first we need to look at what the resources what we are doing and how we can convert that and make it, add value to it. And I think, and that is straight away, and there are a lot of other things. And I'm not against diversifying. Without diversification, we cannot grow. We have to understand. I mean, we started off with being a cotton, then now I can see in my production, there's a shift. Polyester cotton blends, nylon blends are growing.
Stretch.
Okay? And of course, you have to adapt to the customer requirement. But I think we should play to our strengths. What has happened over the years, after cotton production has gone down, the quality of, I mean, our cotton, in my opinion, is one of the best cotton in the world for the coarse counts. Okay, up to 20s safely, but I think up to 30s, we are the best in terms of dyeability, everything, okay? But the problem for us is the contamination, which yesterday I probably discussed, that we need to look at our picking system. I think if we can solve that problem, there are a lot of problems that can be improved. But I believe in terms of, we have the potential like everybody says, but I think we need to understand the direction. What government should be doing is they should be calling the APTEMA, calling all the industrialists, ask them how we can grow the export. Give us what you need from us. Of course, the investments has to come from the industry. All the industrialists, they have to take the decisions. But at least we should identify the goal. This is what where we want to. Then government should ask what you want from us. Government should provide those things for the industry so they can invest, of course. And then, of course, the other biggest problem for us is the labor. We don't have skilled labor for stitching. I think for last few years, the made-up business is growing. A lot of women are entering into that. Before that, it wasn't there. I think that gives the advantage. And in my opinion, if we have a lot of things, but it's just that we need to have the direction, focus, and we can do that. So I think,
Excellent.
for me, it's something.
So great, and let's assume, great consumer insight, by the way. And I just realized, in 70 years, we don't have this cotton USA. So we didn't even have a cotton Pakistan. What you're saying, slogan, right? And cotton is still our core competency and core product. And you gave a great idea about, because I think 75% of our cotton is converted into till fabric, or maybe more. Maybe 15% is converted into garment. I think 60-70% is converted into only yarn. So that's excellent. Where if we work together, keeping in mind, let's create a cotton with a garment with the performance of what consumer wants. They don't want polyester. Don't get me wrong. They don't want nylon. They want something lighter, something quick dry, something more durable. That's it. So if we can work together, and NTU has been a great example, National Textile, where we are working on developing those, finishes or. Excellent. Thank you. Sir.
Yeah.
The technology people.
Allow me a side from outside to Pakistan. First of all, this headline there, change is the only constant. I like this because this is showing in the future. Pakistan has, you heard this, I'm a cotton guy too, has a medium quality cotton for medium count size and coarse count size. Very, very good. And you make money today with the textile industry. You are successful here, but I think you are sitting too much in a comfort zone. You are people of today. You have to be more open for the future. So you need new ideas to create higher value products out of your raw material. If you look to Bangladesh or if you look to Vietnam, they have no own cotton. So they are more creative and they find niches in their business to make money. You here in Pakistan have to invest more in the future. What is the future? The young people. So education. You have spent more money for R&D, for universities, for textile institutes, because you need these young, creative people to bring your traditional textile industry to the digital world. That people of my age cannot do it. We do not understand it even more. No? So you need your young people. Give them a chance. And for example, this conference here, I missed young scientists here to present what they are doing. We must hear more to them. For example, I know the situation of the textile industry in Germany. 30 years ago, it was similar to the situation now here. Then, German textile industry spent a hell of money in development, in R&D for new products. Today, Germany has no traditional textile industry anymore, but Germany is the number one for technical textiles and for nonwovens. Germany is exporting more technical textiles than the US or China. And if you talk to young scientists today in Germany, they don't talk about technical textiles, they talk about functional textiles, smart textiles, intelligent textiles. They talk about 3D-dimensional printing of textiles, not anymore from the loom or from the knitting machine.
Excellent. So very great point. Where, I think we need to change our heroes. And that's where, our heroes are Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka. And we are waiting for China, US to put tariffs on China so our business can grow. So I think you excellent idea where, how can we develop things which are more smart and more innovative, more technical. I mean, I don't use the term technical textile anymore. It's performance textile. And I know Germany very well, where they're producing 100% cotton fabrics, which qualifies for technical textile. And it's a brand, And we import it in Pakistan, make a garment and ship it out. Nobody has made an effort, or people are trying to make that fabric here.
Yeah, you have only one way to spend money for R&D and assist the universities and institutes.
Thank you. Sir.
The topic of today, innovation. Innovation is an expression which we Germans, and especially I, love. Because innovation you can do on a lot of levels. You were speaking of, for example, if you speak about textile, it's the fibers, for example, where you can really develop, you can bring out innovative fibers, out of which later on you can do innovative fabrics. Just an example, 20 years ago, I did with one of your companies, at that time it was like Dupont and Coolmax, I made in Turkey the first jeans which was functional for sports. You could wear it in sports and you could use the same one going into the bar, restaurant. Yeah, we mixed cotton with Coolmax, and Dupont at that time did a lot of exercises together because I had the idea, come on, let's do a functional jeans. It's one of the most sold trousers is a jeans. Why should it be always 100% cotton? Just an example, if you do fibers, fabrics, you can do a lot of innovations. also here in Pakistan, yeah, this is one thing, innovation. The other positive thing, or where I see an innovation, and now I would like to address Madame Marchand, this has to do with human rights. An example, and here maybe in future, maybe that you also maybe give a link to the EU or to your colleagues. 5 years or 6 years ago, it was America, somebody from the USA at that time, who contacted me on a political level, and he said, Mr. Fischer, are you interested here in Pakistan? We have a so-called USAID program that was to make women work and get them in management position. Are you interested? And I did it. And as a case study at that time, I took 10 young graduates, and believe me, 9 of them were excellent. One of the best managers I ever had later on. And this is something where I come now to the human rights. I want to address now all of you. I think in Europe, for us, it's normal, we are all equal. Yeah? Meaning there is no differentiation between men and women. Here in Pakistan, I'm coming here since '86. Still, I address it openly, still I have the feeling that there is a differentiation. Yeah? First, now I address all of you. Change this attitude. And with your help, maybe, we can even raise the awareness and get the opportunity, yeah, to build this up. This would be for me also innovation and sustainability. Another example, and this has to do where you all have to be more innovative, I think, if it comes to human rights, treat everybody equal. I give you a very simple example of mine. When I started working for the company I work now, your Centra, 12 years ago, and I entered the office, which was existing. I entered the office, and there was a guy, you call it peon or so, who was cleaning outside, you know, all the tubs away, and nobody of my Pakistani employees said hello to him. I went there and hugged him, believe me, and then they looked at me, and they said, how can you do it? I said, look, this guy is now motivated. Believe me, since then I have the cleanest office in whole Pakistan. Yeah, this is, I mean, treat everybody equal. And believe me, then the EU and all the relevant people will see, hey, there is a positive change in Pakistan. And I know we can do it here. I've seen it by experience. So please take this message, and then if you do it like this, and now answer to your question, or maybe give you a kind of advice, solution is wrong, advice. Innovation starts with, think what we are doing with my factory, for example, I don't know what you're doing. Either take fibers and make new fabrics, which we can do out. Use a Pakistani cotton with this. But man-made fibers are also sustainable. You have to choose the right ones from companies, for example, you represent. I don't want to make promotion for you, but they are sustainable. Don't take, I said no-name artificial fibers from, let's say from China or other parts of the world, your neighbors, where you don't know what is inside the chemicals. And then think over, well, with this product, maybe I have now a different product than the others. And believe me, that's why I also address you. We always have an open mind, especially me, if you are creative. If we sit together and we can sit together and discuss, hey, with this kind of fabric, with this mixture, maybe, we can create a nice garment, whatever. And whenever the customers globally say Pakistan is not innovative, I said, sorry, did you look nowadays, what Pakistani suppliers, for example, like Nishat is doing or others, recycling. They use recycled polyester. They use recycled cotton. This is just also, that makes me proud if we can come to sustainability. And believe me, there are a lot of chances without huge investments. It's only the will and the commitment to do it. And here, I made my experience in Pakistan. There's one thing which is still lacking, patience. Patience means commitment. If you commit, you can't tell them you are in 1 week successful, in 1 month, in half a year or in a year. But believe me, you can be successful if you are committed. Thanks.
Great, sir. Thank you very much. So, if I have to conclude this,
I
yeah,
have to
sorry.
add a little bit on the innovation part, if you give me just a couple of minutes. Okay, I think the main topic for us was the innovation, and I think I got lost a little bit on the discussion on the cotton topic. Okay, innovation, if you look at it from what I can see, it's as two parts. One is product innovation, and of course, how you're producing it, that's the process innovation. Okay, in my opinion, innovation is triggered by the buzzword, which is the sustainability. These days, everything revolves around sustainability. Be it new product that you're trying to develop, create, anything, okay, it must be sustainable, okay? It must have a better sustainable cycle, at least what we've been doing and what we're going to do. So that is the number one key. So in terms of adding new fibers, blends, okay, I like to have, as I said, I'm a cotton guy. I like to work with blends. Polyester is good, nylon is good, but I tend to avoid, I'd like to have denier fibers, because when the fiber, polyester yarn or if nylon yarn is a denier form, then it's not into short fibers, and when you wash it, it doesn't shed off. When it's a spun yarn, then that's the problem, because it's a spun polyester along with cotton. Then when you wash off, it tends off. Again, I would want, generally, I think, so products in terms of if the customer trends are going into, like you're saying, functional fabrics, where you want to use it for your work and then you want to go for a cycling or something like that, you want to use the same garment. So it's more of something creating more of a function to it, okay? I'm all for that. It's not something that, but again, we cannot really, I believe, it's not something, it can be done along with using cotton because cotton as a fiber has certain aesthetics, and it gives a certain look and aesthetics to the garment in terms of wearer, because the drape, the fall that you have with cotton, it's unlike with all the synthetic fibers. But again, I don't want to go into that part. Coming back to the product innovation, the process innovation, in my opinion, because of the sustainability, which is the key, and everybody wants, all the brands are driving it, the consumers sitting in Europe and US wants sustainability as the key thing when they're buying for the product. We as manufacturers start to look into the processes. Let me tell you, in Nishat, we're the first company in the world, I can proudly say, that we have developed a continuous dyeing and diverse and changed it into a process which was not, which the system was there. I mean, it was developed almost 40, 50 years back, okay? But it materialized now because of the controls that we have due to the improvement in electronics and all the other things. It's a new system. Thereby, what we're doing is, the advantage that has is with the conventional dyeing for apparel fabric, okay, bottom weights, we can save 40% of energy. So basically, it's called the PS2 process, unlike the conventional process. So the technologies is there now, of course, because of the pressure from the customers. Let me be honest with you, okay? But I think now the drive is more on for us also, because we need to find out ways how to reduce the cost, because at the end of the day, it's not only the sustainability. By saving 40% power, my cost of production is going down. So it's working two ways. We are making a product which is more sustainable, but also we are saving so much
Thank you,
energy.
Adil.
So I think sustainability is the buzzword. There are technologies. I was in ITMA, I think a couple of 2-3 weeks back. I just saw there's ultrasonic washing. I mean, we have started discussion. This is a Turkish company. who made this system. I think if it really works, it can revolutionize a lot of processes. There's a company. So to answer a lot of, I can tell you is that we need to invest continuously invest into new technologies. When I bought this system, let me be honest with you, I told my CEO that it might not work. I'm being the general manager. It's an investment of $300,000. And there was very much possibility that it could not work. Now, for me to ask my CEO and for him, and I had to convince him, okay, I told him that it might not work. But I think he understood that, and he also works on the same page of changing innovations. So I think as companies, all the heads who are heading, we should try, because until we try, we cannot really learn new things. It is all to do with experimentation. I mean, when we started off, there were moments, let me be honest with you, where I thought it might not work. But for the last couple of months, the success I'm seeing, it will revolutionize the continuous dyeing, especially for cotton fabrics in terms of wet dyeing and reactive dyeing. So I think this is really something that we should try keep on investing on new technologies. That's the key. There could be a failure, okay, but I think with the continuous improvement, sometimes because this guy is not a big company, so he asked my support and I could support him. Okay, maybe Nishat has more financial strength and could do it, but I think all in all, in some ways, we can do all these things. And unless we try to invest into new technologies, we cannot really, and it's a must these days that we must not, we must always look into the new technologies and keep on investing in the new technology.
Thank you very much. And I think Dr. Zubair will...
Just one final question, one final comment, and I think it's coming back to the original question. I think it's something which obviously concerns you, because I think you raised this question earlier as well, that what about now, what's going to happen? But I think the reality is, and this is the competitive world, if the companies are not going to be able to come up to that mark, they will close down. And I say this because this is something I've experienced. I come from a family which had textile business. They did not adopt change, they closed down. They did not. And there are many companies like that. And we've just heard what Nishat has done. We heard yesterday what Interloop has done. We are still hearing, and I think you mentioned 5 companies which are controlling. So it is about constant. We have to adopt that change. We cannot just sit on our laurels and say, oh, well, we are the cotton growing company. Unfortunate country. And we saw today what you show. Look at where we are. With $13 billion out of the $800 billion is less than 2%. That can be very easily shifted. So I think we have to accept that if we want to revive the textile industry, we have to say, well, if you don't come up to that point, then I'm afraid you have to close down. There's no other way of it.
One small comment which I would like to add is that our industry business model and the quality of entrepreneurship which is providing the leadership to the whole industry, that also need to be questioned and explored. I think there is something to that as well.
Yes, hello. Harun Alai from Nagina Group. So my question is addressed to all 6 of you, and it's a very good discussion so far. I think the best we've had. How do we increase our exports to $50 billion by 2025? And I want you guys to give me your direct answers to that. And I think that'll end this off on a very empirical note.
One word. Again, like I said, mid-ups, value addition. Whatever we are doing, whatever we are producing, we should not export fabric. We should convert that into apparel. That's the key. And then on top of that, of course, what we are not doing here, we need to bring that here also. That to add icing on the cake. Whatever doing, that's the first step at least we can take. because this is what we are doing. And the direction should be to convert that into a made-up and not selling at $2 or $2.5 and sell it at $7 or $8.
That's a
And immediately convert that into more revenue.
great
That's it.
idea. Yeah,
Nothing
I mean,
more.
I think Bangladesh, their export is probably 10 times more than us, but in volume, they may be half than us. If you look at kilos exported from Pakistan and kilos imported from Bangladesh, they're probably 30%. And that, if you can create that, it will answer your question. Because to me, and I can talk to you offline, how we are creating, because for us, entrepreneurship means, Miya Saab, lots of money and business. No, entrepreneurs is a mindset, right? Everybody, I think 35% of the workforce does textile, 65% of the export. But you can count the textile companies on this hand. There are 6 dye houses, there are 10 denim companies, there are 50, 60 spinning mills. In Turkey, there are 6,000 or 7,000 garment factories, medium and small, and maybe 60, 70 large. That will create binary income also. Because we cannot, in a spinning where you have 30,000 people working, you cannot just replace them with, and for garment, trust me, women make better garment because they're more delicate in that skill. One of the reasons Pakistan lost out after quota, because we had the highest quota for man t-shirt, 338, right? Which was straight. After that, we couldn't even make a V in the shirt because you need women too. So that will create a real revolution because it will create employment for women, and our export will become overnight. The more you closer to $50. So if the yarn is $1 and we are doing 13, it will be multiplied by 4 overnight, because then the garment minimum price is 6. You don't have to look at anything else. But and I have to conclude. Is there any more question?
Ji, Assalamu alaikum. I say it was a wonderful discussion. It was very informative, and it made the day. But one thing I feel, it's like we are talking about landing on the moon, and we need to explore our own world. We are talking about microfiber and nano finish and this and that. But there is some gross fact. There is a $167 billion kids apparel market, and Pakistan share is below 500 million. We are not on 25th in the grading of kids apparel. Then come to the baseball cap. There was a $53 billion import in Europe and this for just baseball cap. I have data, verified data. And Pakistan below 20 billion. And we make the finest 12 for these baseball caps and all those products we have. So we should not talk about the product. We should talk about the opportunity, which is compatible with Pakistan environment. We need export and we need employment. And these kids apparel and baseball, the new entrant, the new operators, they can make it very nicely and in a very short span of time. So please focus it's SMEs. I'm requesting SME, support the SME, because mega setups, they will never be interested to make it $2 kids apparel or $1 baseball set. But for SME, it's perfect. This is a perfect thing.
Good idea.
And another thing which I want to discuss is SMEs is directly related. We are quoting again and again about the Bangladesh. But see why Bangladesh labor was cheap? Because apprenticeship, always apprenticeship. 15 years operators are sitting and they are legally working on that, because we are garment industry, as well said by him, it's a non-hazard industry. Stitching machine, it's a very small motor and it's a very safe environment. So 18 years, it should be just for the textile hazard industry, like weaving or knitting or dyeing or spinning. But for the stitching, it's purely non-hazard industry. So please allow girls and boys of 15 years to sit and work on that. Thank you.
You have a question? Thank you. What we are trying, and that was I'm glad you raised it. Because, I was at NTUE couple of days back, and we are studying that what textile crop can not replace cotton, add more, because we are a cotton country, but how many bales we import? 3 million, right? So that answers a lot of my points. Because cotton has, because of cotton, we are stuck in towel, fleece and denim and bottoms, right? The other thing, I mean, and that will give me because I think people are hungry also. So next time, and I think the thing which gives an idea for next time when we meet, because we only talked about interloop success, but I would like to do with Adil next time, whatever sustainability they've done, let's brand it. Let the consumer, his buyer ask for it, that I want this, whose brand is this? You know, Sustera or sustainability or whatever. Branded I mean, how many 100% cotton yarn brands we have? How many patents have been filed from Pakistan? I think 80,000 patents every year has been filed from, I am protecting about 20 patents of different fiber suppliers. Those are fiber patents. Fabric construction patents. I'm not saying, this session was about innovation. And unfortunately, believe it or not, in the other categories of apparel and textile, they have switched from cotton to other attributes. So if you want to make, but we will still be cotton country. We're not saying that. But if, one example, cotton is about 80 cents a kilo. What is the price of flax fiber? $7, $8. It's produced in the same conditions. We produce flaxseed and we, for oil. We are not producing linen fiber here, flax fiber. It is a natural fiber, cellulosic, and it is grown in the same area. It's about $12 a kilo. So just by using, growing on 5% of the area we are growing cotton, you will get 12 times the same revenue you will get. It's a no-brainer.
So just to add to your part, you said about the holistic approach. So if I may understand your question rightly, why we're talking about textiles in Pakistan, because it's predominantly the only industry in Pakistan, and we generate most of the revenue through textiles. Okay, so that's the key subject for us, and that's a key industry. The part where we are lacking, to be honest with you, is having so much industry in Pakistan, being spinning, weaving, processing. Now with the made-ups industry, nobody's thinking about hardcore manufacturing of these machines here. Somebody to start with small things, rollers, small parts that we are importing. Why not start manufacturing?
Yeah, rubber cords.
Exporting our industry. Because, the problem is, of course, the drive should come from the government, but we all know that our government is all messed up and they are busy fighting with each other and they keep on fighting.
Sorry, Adil.
So, just to wrap up, there are a lot of avenues as a country, as we just need to look into the possibilities of going into and taking that direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much.